Hi, I'm Courtney,
And I'm Aaron.
and we're here to vlog about resisting violence against women. First, we'll start by defining some key terms. First, we're going to define the word vlog, which is video blogging, if you don't know what that means. Um, Next, misogyny, the hatred or contempt for women.
Virginity, the act of not having had partnered sex.
And the double bind, situations where the options are reduced to very few, and all of them expose one to penalties such as leisure or deprivation, a lose-lose situation. First, we're going to read off some interviews that were conducted in the 1970s, 1980s.
Um, the first one says, I spent 3 days in intensive care in Columbia Hospital after emergency surgery to stop the bleeding. She was a virgin.
I never thought of resisting. After all, I was 9 years old, and this was my uncle, although I remember not wanting him to do this.
A police app, a police officer asked me for a sexual favor. In turn, he would void the traffic ticket.
The babysitter and his boyfriend, a neighbor, hit me. They said that I would be killed. They pinned my arms. I was only 7.
I had been drinking quite a bit, and it was quickly over as the result of my resistance when I realized what was going on.
One of my best friends were raped, and subsequently had an abortion in 1971. She was severely traumatized by the incident, and the police were terrible to her because she had been equated with the rapist. Eventually, he was sent to jail, but I will never forget what she had to go through. I think it's terrible, horrible, and a telling comment on our society that I am afraid to walk out, even on busy streets, after dark. I hate the winter, not because of the cold, but because it gets dark at 5 o'clock. I don't want to spend the rest of my life looking into corners of dark buildings, behind trees and bushes, or glaring at any strange man I see walking across the street. Something should be done. Now we have a question for you. On average, what do you think the percentage of Americans are to have been reported being physically or sexually abused by a husband or boyfriend at some point in their lives? Got an answer? Nearly one third of Americans women 30
Women.
31% report being physically or sexually abused by a husband or boyfriend in their lives. Now the next question is, if you wanna, what percentage?
The next question is, what percentage of Americans say they know a woman who has been physically abused by her husband or boyfriend? Do you know? Do you? 30%.
Did you guess it? Probably. Many abuse cases against women go unreported.
The following list is based on the reasons for not reporting given to Portland's Women's Crisis Line counselors. They were stated by counselors from January 1977 and 1979, listed in order of how frequently mentioned. The most common reasons mentioned by women who called the crisis line are fear of retaliation, fear of police, hospital, and or court procedures.
The second group of most commonly mentioned reasons that show up in crisis line records are fears that teenagers' parents will find out, just wanting to forget about it, not wanting the family members to know, and not wanting to have dealings with the police because the women were a runaway.
The next most frequently mentioned reasons are fear of not being believed, feelings of embarrassment, and feelings of self-blame.
Other common reasons include fears of a husband or boyfriend would beat her if he found out, fears that a husband or boyfriend would kill or beat up the rapist if he found out, the feeling that it would do no good, or not believing that she has meaningful legal recourse, in the case of the women being raped. If you have or know someone who has been abused, there are places to go for help. Nothing is more natural than to turn to a friend or a family member for help with personal problems. Battered wives often turn to members of their families for assistance as a result of spousal assaults that they have suffered.
In-laws are much less likely to be utilized as help sources than the wife's own family members. However, they were approached in 12% of the first incidents, rising to 18% of the worst incidents. Get this first.
Friends are often contacted after the first battering, and they became steadily more important in the effort to end the battering from incident to incident.
Today, the number of shelter services that exists among the victims of spousal assaults are grossly inadequate to meet the needs. Luckily, friendly neighbors and family members are often willing to step forward and offer shelter services to the beating wives.
Some women seek help from social service agents. The mean length of service is 6.7 months per incident. Here in Milwaukee, we have Milwaukee's Women's Center, NAMI,
I could
or
think you can
NAMI,
say Nami.
NAMI,
And we can just like put it on the thing.
NAMI,
Nami. Nami. Nami.
Greater Milwaukee, Milwaukee Rescue Mission, Asia, Women of Color Project, Daystar Inc.
Sojourner Truth.
Thank you. Task Force of Battered Women and Children Inc. and several more in the area.
If you're an abuse victim, don't be afraid to contact any of the people we have named. They are here to help you in your time of need.
Women never ask for abuse or rape, and they should never have to be afraid to ask for help when ending up in a bad situation.
Be in charge of your own life.
Now for the vlogging aspect of this. We're going to talk about, individually, about how we feel about what we have just told you. I personally don't feel like enough has been done to not only help women who are in uncomfortable and dangerous situations, but also to explain to them how they can be helped. A lot of women don't realize that there are resources out there and that they can that it isn't their fault and they can ask for help. I think that there should be more places to go for help, and that hopefully in the near future more will be opened and there'll be more opportunities to reach out to the women could be hurt or even killed in these situations. Many women don't know the definition of abuse. They have always been told that they deserve what they're getting, what's coming to them, and that they weren't a good enough wife. And that's why a lot of women don't leave an abusive relationship. They don't think that they should, and they don't think that there's anything better for them. Or they're just afraid. They're afraid that they could be harmed worse, that if they leave, that they will be found and killed, or that they won't know what to do. They can't support themselves. They don't have a job maybe, and they should never feel that way. They should never feel that being abused or feeling threatened at all times is better than not knowing what to do.
I don't have any idea what Courtney said at all. But I honestly am disgusted at the topic and how frequent the topic is. It's a lot for me to swallow, as it is probably for anyone. As a man, a male, I couldn't see myself abusing, sexually abusing a woman at all for any reason. I don't understand how a male could, and I just feel like we're not raising our men the right way. And I guess it just comes with things I've experienced, why I feel like that. I mean, I know people who were sexually abused and raped, and they probably wouldn't be comfortable with me sharing them at all. I mean, I want to, but I feel like that's something I don't have the right to share. But I can share how it affected them. There were a lot of crying phone calls. A lot of times where they would call me in the middle of the night because they couldn't sleep, because they kept having a reoccurring dream about it. The times where they felt like they had nowhere to go. I don't. It was hard for me as well for them, but this isn't about me. I didn't. It's really personal. I didn't like hearing them cry. I got so angry at the topic, and every time I heard it, it made me really violent. Like, I punched holes in my walls and everything because I know there was nothing I could do to stop it or stop it from happening, but I knew there was something I could do to help them get through it. That's why we urge any of you, if you have ever been abused or sexually abused, to tell somebody that you know can help you. And if you don't know anyone personally, don't be afraid to contact any of the places that we have mentioned, and we're gonna put them up on the video at some point in the annotations or whatever. I've been the person to be there for them, and they really need someone, and I know they really need someone. They need something. These aren't that it's not something that you can just deal with easily. It's not something you can blow off. It's something that haunts you, and it can haunt you for the rest of your life. That's why it's best to get help. It's really hard to revisit those painful times for them. And um, it's 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 really painful to know that people still have to go through this or go through it at all. It's really painful. I guess it's just best that you just find the help you need. Just find the help you need. Have something to believe in, and even though it's hard, find a reason to fight and find a reason to live. Because I know it's hard to deal with, but you have to try your best to not let that define you. You have to be a strong woman or male if you're being abused, and because it happens to males too. You have to be a strong woman or male and try to make a difference. Find the help, find something to believe in, and find a way to take your pain and make the world a better place. But first, help you. You have to make sure you help yourself first. Save yourself first. Please.
Now, take a moment to talk amongst yourselves about your feelings about this.
Take a moment to talk amongst yourselves about this, I guess.
About how you feel violence against women can be prevented, how you think it's increased or decreased over time.
And how you can be helpful to those that you do know, if you know anyone. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
We should tell them our sources.
Our sources.
We used a book called Beating Wife Beating by the School of Social Welfare, UW Milwaukee, and the women's studies book that we used in class, which
I don't have the
Okay.
women's studies book that we used in class.
but we used that one.
We used that. And there was a survival book which I definitely recommend.
What was it called?
Um,
It was like the survival handbook for women
Abused and Battered
Ab-
Women.
abused and battered women.
The Survival Handbook for Abused and Battered Women.
Very good.
It is a really good reference for anyone who's going through this.
Or anyone who wants to help someone else going through or better understand it.
So we definitely recommend it. Now, toodaloo. Outro of Greatness.
Bye.